You're listening to All Things Transformers, version 2.0.
If you're gonna ride, Dano, ride in style.
Hello and welcome to All Things Transformers version... I almost said 4.0. Holy crap. Version 2.0. I am one of your hosts, TFCon and Mike, and you'll be wondering, why the hell am I introducing this show? Well, this was my idea to set up a TFCon 2013 pre-show. ATTF is taking over the convention coverage that we normally used to do on Toycast. Since Toycast is going to be, or already is, retired, we're going to bring the convention coverage over to All Things Transformers. Joining me is the show creator, Steve Megatron. Hello.
Hello.
Is it weird to have someone else introduce your own damn show?
No, considering I gave permission.
No, I know that... God, this is going to be a fun night. All right, and joining us, as he does almost every year for a pre- and post-show, we'll have the post-show maybe 2 days after TFCon, which is July 26th, 28th, is the goddamn Proto-Man.
Hey,
hello.
how you doing, people? I am back.
Yes, you are back. All right, so forgive me, since I don't have time to look at the entire history on the website.
It's fine.
Is this the 11th or 12th convention?
It's technically like the 11th year, like,
okay.
Because it's funny, because when we were discussing like anniversaries, you know, like how does one really do it? Because it's like it's our 10th year, but it's like our 10th convention, but it's our 9th anniversary. You know, technically it's our 12th. That's what it is, because we started in late 2011. 2001, when the convention was actually ironically done in a hockey arena. doesn't get more Canadian than that.
No.
Because that was the cheapest rental. There was this gigantic convention space at the back of a hockey arena, so we did it there. And then evolution and success, unexpected success, led to it being in smaller hotels and then into large fancy hotels.
Yes, and this year you guys are at the Delta Meadowvale Hotel and Conference Center in Mississauga, Ontario.
Freaking amazing hotel. What we like about it and why we stuck with it is the setup really leads to, it's a good social kind of atmosphere, because it's like you have the convention center area where the dealer room is and where the cars are and everything, and just the panels, it's all in that one area. But then it all siphons to where the hotel bar is. And the hotel bar, it's not like a closed off bar that you go into, it's an open bar that, while it's labeled, and I use air quotes here, a bar, it really is just the social gathering of anyone of any age. And this is it's where everyone is at the convention off the hours, and that includes guests. If people have been to TFCon in the past, it's always where all the other guests are hanging out, because it's kind of like the place to be. And then on top of that, you keep going in that direction, and then you got a swimming pool with water slides. It's just fun.
Swerve would love that place, wouldn't he?
Well, it's the Delta, it's the Delta Meadowdale and Resort. Like, it has a lot of resort related stuff on it, where I always suggest to people, if you're coming to TFCon and you're someone who's like not a local, or someone, even if it's not, like for me, it's a 6-hour drive, but if you're someone who's really doing a plane flight for it, take a couple of extra days off, bring the missus with, make a week out of it. You know, there's a lot to do in that area that's very close by. And Toronto, well, it's not as historical as my hometown Montreal. It has a lot of also touristy kind of stuff there too. Especially if you like hockey, the Hockey Hall of Fame is there. That's one of the biggest selling points. I know Optobotomus, who's a big hockey fan, like every time that would be like one of his destinations he'd love to go to if he came to TFCon.
Yeah, that's if he came to TFCon.
That's if he came.
If he came and he wasn't calling it GoBoticon.
Hey man, we went with our theme and we're sticking to it.
All right, so what is the theme for this year?
Well, the funny thing is that when we were tackling our exclusives, what we always do is we always say what molds do we have at our disposal. And we go to different third-party companies and go, what will you give us and what are the limitations? And then we could be creative and shoot back and forth with them. iGear, we've had a really good relationship with for the past 2 years. And when we did the Shafter last year, it was a huge success. And they were very happy with it too, and they wanted to continue this relationship that we have with them. So they right away told us the 2 molds that would be, and you have to realize exclusives are planned literally 9 months in advance, maybe even more.
Oh yeah, they would have to.
Like the thing is that while there is tons of iGear molds that are available right now to all of us, like the Sea Spray and the one that's based off of Outback and Gears, all and Beachcomber, all of those are available now.
9 months ago they weren't available.
What?
9 months ago they weren't available.
Not even in prototype form. Like back then it was just the hench, which is the knot brawn, and the UFO, which is the knot Cosmos. That was all that was literally like on the factory floors of availability, and when we're shooting ideas back and forth, they have to color test, they have to mold test, all kinds of stuff, because stuff is gang molded too. It's all done on model trees. It's a long process, but we find out first what we have available to us, which is, okay, here's UFO and here's hench. And then the brainstorming begins. And this is where we literally all staff sit down and go, well, what do you do with the Cosmos mold? And there's always, the obvious ones where it's like, well, we could do e-hobby, like, Pathfinder, or we could do, and then like one of them was like, hey, maybe some kind of Omega Supreme. And then it was like, nah, not really. And then one of them, which I thought was kind of clever, but it would be kind of obscure if you're familiar with the character Scratch, Scrounge. I'd say Scratch. There's a character Scrounge from the UK G1 comic books, who is a character that transformed into a wheel. And the thing is that Cosmos on his side, he's kind of like a wheel, Like we were just trying to be really creative with that mold, because it's a very limited mold what you could do with a Cosmos mold. A spaceship with that very iconic Cosmos design to it. There's not many repaints. You have a Jazz that turns into a sports car. With a little creativity, you could do practically anybody. I mean, look at Movie Jazz. Movie Jazz has been turned into, a Rodimus character, has been turned into a smokescreen character. There's no limits that could be done with that mold. And it's the same thing. In the case of Cosmos, where it was the opposite, where it's like, there's not much you can do. And then at the same time, you're looking at the hench, and it's, hey, he's kind of a Jeep thing with his iconic wheel on the roof, and that wheel really hinders things because there's only so much you could do with it. And we were going back and forth, and then I was like, man, I really want to do a GoBots homage, because if people have been to TFCon in the past, I used to do panels on GoBots and their true history, like what they really were and where they came from. And I've been wanting to get my favorite character from GoBots, which is Vanguard, into any kind of homage. And the funny thing is that if you look at the original Vanguard toy, it has like a kind of MV on the hood of the car, of the van. And just by design and coincidence, because all the mini-bots were Microman toys, they all have that M somewhere on them. So it was kind of a coincidence. So first we had Vanguard coming from that hench, and it working really well. As we started playing with the idea, it started to really work out. But then as time progressed, we were like, you know what, let's go with the Roswell. Like, we came with the name Roswell. That came up by one of our guys, Super Megatron. He came up with the idea of Roswell, and also because the anniversary of the Roswell landing was happening, it kind of like flowed all together really nicely. And we could do that as the Pathfinder homage. Through development and everything, people were saying like, oh, it's going to be a Pathfinder homage. Well, is it going to be the e-hobby colors? Is it going to be the original GoBot colors, which are more of a gray? and we were looking at the threads, and people were like wanting one or the other, literally like almost 50-50.
Mhm.
And it was like, oh boy, what are we going to do? Like, either way we do it, there's going to be a big group of people that are not going to be happy. And so we kind of did a fusion of the both. And the thing is also, if you want a really true Pathfinder homage of the e-hobby one, buy the UFO toy that comes with all the yellow parts from Cosmos, and you could actually unscrew and swap the pieces and have that perfect e-hobby Pathfinder. And if you want to just have your normal Pathfinder, just buy the normal TFCon exclusive. We tried to make everyone happy, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
With this, and that was our first 2 exclusives. Then on top, we have 2 other exclusives, which are at show exclusives, kind of like what Bakon does with the Sylvaneers. And we started doing that 3 years ago too, where we have 2 that you pre-order, and then there's 2 that you have to actually come to the show and get. And these ones actually happened by accident, which was Auto Assembly, our fellow convention, across the pond in the UK. They wanted to do, finally, after all those years of being in business, they wanted to do their own exclusive. But Auto Assembly, because it's not a humongous convention, and how it works with exclusives is that it's very hard to convince a company to make your exclusives and your actual color waves and that, unless you give them a big sum of numbers, like 1,000. It has to be a run of 1,000 or something. Otherwise, it's not worth it for. And how it works is actually the more numbers that are done, the cheaper it is to produce it per number, like per piece, if you will. So Auto Assembly, which is a convention that barely gets 1,000 people, how would they be able to have 1,000 exclusives under the assumption that every single person is going to buy one? So in order to kind of cover their butt, they talked with us and they said, hey, would you be willing to split 50-50? So we ended up getting, and the funny thing is, these exclusives, they're actually based off of, I believe they're called Wrecking Crew is the third party name, which it's the Topspin and Twin Twist third party ones, which are great molds, by the way. And these ones are special repaints based off of these obscure UK colors that they got, which was Saltman X, and like there was a very weird G2 UK colors for these 2 molds that existed back then that was only exclusive to the UK. If you Google it, you'll see what I mean. They're very weird colors. So these are homages to that. But when it came to writing the fiction, I kind of like tackled them, and I wanted to make something that was, again, it's something that's a homage to the UK market, but now it's in the Canadian market. How do we do a spin on this that will make people in the Canadian market and the Americans who are going to be flying in interested in buying this? So I wrote this whole story and tied it into the TFCon fiction, and they're going to appear in the TFCon comic book also, which kind of greases the wheels too, makes people interested a little bit. I made it a little bit of actually a homage to a Mega Man character, one of them, because the colors kind of reminded me of a Mega Man character. So, but
plus the name Saltman X. I mean, come on.
Well, that's just it. You'll see like I don't want to spoil anything, but like it's gonna be public when it comes out. But because the thing is, when you look at those 2 molds, there's not so much you could pull from it from a Transformers standpoint, because even the actual characters of Topspin and Twin Twist, what exists of those 2, the base characters, let alone repaints of them. So I kind of pulled from other fiction and did like little homages here and there to that, and it will be on there. And it's kind of cool because how it works with Auto Assembly was that we did it that if you fold the card back one way, you get the profile for TFCon. If you fold it another way, you get the profile from Auto Assembly. Which from what I was from what I was told, their profiles are completely UK fan wank, like making references to like United Kingdom dry comedy shows and stuff. So that's kind of also why we went with having our own profiles, because if we would have stuck with what they had, a lot of people would have been scratching their heads going, what's Are You Being Served, or like really obscure UK stuff. So that's also why we went that angle. But those 2 toys, like even the original ones, I heavily suggest you pick even the original ones up, because they are like the masterpiece classics versions of Topspin and Twin Twist, if that means anything to people. But
yeah,
so that's 2 other exclusives we have. On top of that too, we always have specific artists in the artist alley that are responsible for our exclusive lithographs.
I was gonna say you guys have a
Oh
huge
yeah. Well,
alley this year.
yeah. The thing is that we've always had a really good relationship with IDW because before IDW was IDW, a lot of their former artists and workers used to work for Dreamwave, which was a Canadian company. Well, at least Canadian-based in a sense. So Alex Milne, who has been a friend of the convention, a very close friend of mine, has always been a very, very, very influential guy helping us with the convention in its early years. And then when he started really becoming a name for himself, when the Transformer Complex really launched with Mortal Meets the Eye, we really got that pull. You know, all of a sudden we're getting the writers, the colorists, the writers for small stuff, the colorists for small stuff. We have literally a humongous chunk of IDW in that artist alley. And some of those artists are going to be making exclusive prints just for the show, related to, like a good example, Joshua Perez, who's in charge of the coloring for all of the Robots in Disguise comics. But he's better well known for like the Drift comics. He's a guy that really, he's a super talented dude. Like he could draw too. He's a colorist, but he's very good at inking and penciling too. He's doing this great lithograph because he's a very clever guy, because what he does is he looks what the guests are, and then he does lithographs related to the guests, but he always puts stuff that's obscure together. So a good example, we have Dick Gautier, who's the voice of Rodimus. And interestingly enough, if you do...
Ladies and gentlemen, you can just stop right now because Proto-Man's just going to kidnap him up to his room and you won't even see him the entire weekend.
He's no Judd Nelson, but it's still pretty cool.
Oh, stop.
But it's still pretty cool that we're getting him. But the thing is that if you do a little research on Dick Gautier, he also was the voice of a rock lord named Brimstone. Right. So he did this crazy lithograph where it's Rodimus Prime fighting Brimstone. So
cool.
It's a really high quality like IDW print of a rock lord fighting Rodimus Prime. And again, you buy this. The intent is to get the voice actor to sign it, but there's tons of those kind of wacky prints that are going to be there.
Yeah. The interesting thing, really quick about Gautier is that I could not believe this. I was on our Knight Rider review show. I believe it's the Chameleon episode.
Yes.
Guest starred on. I heard the voice first before I saw the face, and I'm like, hey, wait a second. What's Rodimus doing on Knight Rider?
Yeah, and the thing is too, like a lot of people don't know it. Like one of his big roles that people don't realize is Get Smart. He was Jaime the Robot, which was the cyborg. And like if you close his eyes and listen to the voice, it's fucking Rodimus.
It's Jaime.
You know,
yeah.
You know, what I mean? Like it's he did a lot of stuff. Like he has a big Hollywood background, him especially.
He does, yeah.
So and the fact that we have him this year is amazing, and not because he's an old guy, he's not young, and that actually kind of segues into our other guest that we have, which is also Jack Angel. And Jack Angel, what a background he has. We're talking Hanna-Barbera out of the butt, like tons of Hanna-Barbera stuff, tons of 80s stuff. And on top of that, like he was supposed to be at BotCon 2011, and he had to cancel because of illness, because he wasn't feeling too well. And a lot of people were worried, that's kind of the beginning of stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a negative guy, but so a lot of people were worried, oh man, like he's probably sick and stuff. He's recovered, he's feeling great, and he's going to be at TFCon. So we got two really old school voice actors and actors there. Imagine the original voice of Season 3 Ultra Magnus and the original, just to go through a quick list of, because the thing is, the sad thing with, when it comes to at least Dick Gautier, is that he only really did Rodimus and he did Ape Face. But outside of like Serpentor and stuff, there's not really Transformer connected stuff that he's done in terms of voice acting. But Jack Angel, outside, like the predominant one a lot of people associate him with is Ultra Magnus. But he did G1 Smokescreen, he was Astro Train, he was Breakdown, he was Ramjet, Cyclonus, he was the Sweeps. He was Arcana, which was one of the headmasters, and a big one that a lot of people forget. Ultra Magnus was also Omega Supreme, the very famous, monotone.
See, I always forget about Ultra Magnus, and I didn't even know about Omega. The one I go to is Astro Train, because Astro Train is essentially...
A lot of times when I see his name come up, especially when other people are advertising our convention, they always mention Ultra Magnus, which is interesting because he was the guy who replaced Robert Stack.
So we were talking about the TFCon guests, and running down the list, we've already covered Jack Angel and Dick Gautier, and we've covered the Artist Alley people. You guys also, I'm really surprised at this next one because I haven't. I've probably heard her voice in other things recently, but I haven't seen this one. I haven't even seen her at BotCon at all. Who's the other reveal that you guys have for big name TF voice actors?
I don't know which one you're referring to because they're both females.
No, I'm not. I'm not referring to the GoBot one.
Venus Terzo. She has a humongous anime background. That's where she first started into voice acting, like Ranma One Half and stuff. And when Deke, the animation company, was doing all their low budget cartoons, the Hurricanes, King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, she was a voice on all of that. And the funny thing is, if you go back and watch those shows, surprisingly, there's Scott McNeil, there's Ian Corlett, they all worked together, doing that stuff. But she has a humongous anime background stuff, and then she started getting into live action. She kind of fell off the radar after that when she started getting into more live action stuff, because she's one of those female voice actors that's also kind of not bad to look at if you actually Google image her when she was younger. Now she's in her mid 40s, but when she was in her 20s and stuff, pretty easy on the eyes. She's the voice of Black Arachnia from Beast Wars, and Beast Machines. So we managed to get her because she actually is, if you check her background, she is a fellow Canadian, but she's one of those Canadians that now have broken into more of, I don't want to say Hollywood, but more of the mainstream American live action stuff. So she's been up and about. She has been to one BotCon, but I believe, if I remember correctly, it was that Beast Wars anniversary year in
2006.
Yeah, I believe she was at that one, and that was it. She's only really done one Transformer convention, and it was that one.
Yeah, because you look at and I know we're here to talk about.
No, that's
TFCon,
fine. It's totally fine.
You look at
BotCon
not
too long ago. So
I know, but if you go to botcon.com and you go through their past archives of their guests, not unless it is an anniversary year, unless it's something special. I was really
disappointed with last year, considering it was right near Hollywood, and yet they didn't have nobody. This year, again, I don't want to sound like the guy who hates on BotCon. I love BotCon. I've been going every year for 11 years. You can't say someone who's a Canadian who drops that kind of money could hate something like that.
Oh, I know.
I was really disappointed with this year. I think the hotel was great. The location was great. In terms of having fun with your friends, it was a great weekend, but the convention itself was short in every way humanly possible. I mean, when your big name guest is the guy who was on Optimus Prime's hand in season 5, Tommy Kennedy.
But I think everybody overlooked the fact that they had the entire cast of Rescue Bots. Jason Marsden's first BotCon. Maurice LaMarche was there.
And the sad thing is, I was in that line, and while people were in line for those guys, a lot of people didn't realize that's the voice of Egon. That's the voice. That's the voice of Destro from the Deke G.I. Joe series. Some of those voice actors. I mean, Steve Blum, a lot of people were there for the Starscream. They weren't there for Heatwave from
Heatwave,
But I mean, the thing is, Maurice LaMarche, man, this guy's got history. And what's hilarious is that when they did a G1 panel at BotCon, and the G1 panel was literally Wally Burr and that Tommy Kennedy guy. And the reason we only found out afterwards was that Maurice LaMarche and Wally Burr hate each other because they actually had an extremely bad experience. Maurice LaMarche, G1 voice, he was only the voice of Six Gun, right? So how many lines did Six Gun have in G1? 2. He had 2 lines. Wally Burr, being Wally Burr, Here's Maurice LaManche, comes in. Okay, I got 2 lines. I'll be able to, record these 2 lines and get out of here to do my next job. Because the secret with voice acting is volume. It's not your jobs, it's how many jobs you can do. So he already was scheduled for. He's like, okay, I'm coming in for 2 lines. What's the most it could be? An hour. So he scheduled another voice acting gig afterwards for like 3:00. He was going to come in at 1:30, get it set it up. Wally kept him there the whole time, repeating the same lines over and over. Maurice was furious. He got into a fight with him. And then the funny thing is that exact same episode was the episode that Casey Kasem walked off the set.
Oh, wow.
Which was, I believe it was the Carbamia episode, which is, again, the episode that Six Gun has his lines in it. So it was a whole lot of drama there. But the point is that, so like there you have also, it would have been great to have here someone who actually worked on G1, which was Maurice LaManche, with Wally Burr. They didn't even want to do a panel together. So there was a lot. It was a very weird. There was a Transformer movie panel with Glenn Morshower. Like the guy who had like 1 line in the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, no, he has more than 1 line.
But still, like it's.
He has about 20 in all 3 combined.
Yeah, but it's exactly. So you're gonna talk about the trilogy, like we're not talking Tyrese Gibson here, or Shia, or even like whatever his name is there,
Josh,
Leo.
Yeah, Josh.
Leo from Revenge of the Fallen. We're talking the guy who really didn't have any ties to the movie's actual fiction.
But you got to think though, Hasbro has been using him.
Oh yeah, it's not Hasbro. It's Michael Bay likes using him.
No, well. Is Michael Bay doing the ride? I thought that was Hasbro's deal.
I don't know. I guess now they're running.
I could have sworn that Morshower was the narrator. Like I saw something, might have been a video or something, where he's narrating something or guiding you through something outside of.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing though. He's definitely riding this out as much as he can. So.
Well, what has he done before this? He's done 24.
He does inspirational speeches according to him. Like that's his part-time job. He does like inspirational speeches. So and motivational speeching. So I don't know. Anyways, we're kind of getting off TFCon there. But,
I know.
But yeah,
between Jack, Dick, and Venus, I would love to go this year.
Then we threw a wild card into this, and we're like, you know what? We did some research, and we found out that the original voice actor for one of our exclusives, Pathfinder, and the original voice actor of Crasher, it was the same voice actress, she lives in Toronto all this time. Locally near TFCon. And she's right now she's just a librarian. And it's just like, or she works at like one of the Toronto archives or something. And we're just like, wow, why don't we give her a call? And see what happens. And again, if you actually do research on her, she did a lot of 80s stuff too. Her name is
Marilyn Lightstone.
Thank you. I always say Lighthouse. I don't know why. Anyways. And the thing is too, like, hey, crazy thing, we got a GoBot voice actor. So here's something that Dick Gautier actually worked with also, because they both worked together when they did what do you call it? Battle of the Rock Lords. They worked together, if briefly, but they worked together on that movie. So a lot of we got a lot of guests from different walks of life. I mean, on top of all of that, I didn't even though we mentioned the artists, I didn't really go through all the artists that we have, but I'm just going to try to pull up a list because it's a big list.
Well, you've got James Roberts, who is writer on More Than Meets the Eye. You've got Livio Ramondelli.
we got James Roberts, who he did a lot of the writing for More Than Meets the Eye, and a lot of people are loving that to death. Livio is known for, he's the guy who kind of does what I call painting comics, meaning whenever there's a very important or epic scene, which in the ongoing, especially in the Chaos ongoing. Anytime there was a scene that was really important, Livio would always do the painting for that, which is, if people are familiar with Kingdom Come, which was or the Marvels, which were 2 really big Marvel DC comic books where it's a painting instead of a drawing. He does that kind of style, and he's a very talented guy, and he doesn't get enough work for what he is. Casey Collar. Now here's a guy I love. Casey Collar, this dude is amazing. I think he should be doing like a lot more Transformer stuff. He only worked on like the Spotlight Drift, Spotlight Blur, the Cliff Jumper one, and everything else he does is covers. He's a cover guy. And the thing is, when you're a cover guy means that you put a lot more effort into your art because you're the cover. It's got to look great. But the thing is that when he does get a chance to do interiors, he does everything like a cover. Everything is not sped through like most, pencilers will do and inkists will do. He actually puts that cover effort into all his pages, and he makes some amazing books. Like I always say, read Spotlight Blur. That's one of his best work, in my opinion. Great stuff. And he also did the Ironhide miniseries, another great book. And I'm not a big fan of Ironhide. I thought this book was going to be boring. I read it, and I was like, wow, Casey Collar made it amazing. Another good one is Alex Milne, like I mentioned before. Big name, tons of stuff. I don't even think he needs to be mentioned, really. We also have Andrew Griffith, who's he's the artist for Robots in Disguise. So not only do we have the head artist for Morta Meets the Eye, we also have the head artist for the opposite book, the sister book, Robots in Disguise, there. We also have John Paul Bouvier. Now him, a lot of people don't really, they go, well, who's this guy here? He's the guy who does the colors for the Transformers Regeneration book. So he's the guy who's in charge of pretty much making sure everything looks vintage, essentially. And he's really good at that. He's a really talented colorist. Going in the segue of another colorist, we not only do we have the artist for the Robots in Disguise book, but we also have the colorist, Joshua Perez. Joshua Perez also worked with Alex Milne on all the past books that they worked with together. Any of the movie books Alex Milne did, Megatron Origins, the Drift miniseries, all of that stuff is Joshua Perez's work. And this guy is super talented. Again, like I said before, despite the fact that he's a colorist, he is an amazing artist too, and he does a lot of stuff too. He's currently actually working on the Capcom Bravo Man comic book series, which is based on the
new animated series. Yeah.
So really, really talented dude. And the last guy that we have is Marvin Mariano, and him, he actually is a designer. And he helped design Beast Machine designs, essentially. Because Beast Machines, a lot of people don't realize its history was when Hasbro was working on Beast Machines, they actually I don't want to say they outsourced, but they were really shopping around other design studios when they were like designing Beast Machines characters. They just didn't want something that was like that. So they went to a company called Drexhall. They went to a lot of different guys, and Marvin was one of the guys on there, and he was the guy who actually designed and created Obsidian. So he has tons of like what he brings to the conventions. A lot of times he brings like all his scrapbooks of stuff that he helped design from other series. Like he actually he was working on the early stuff of Transtech too. So, like, you'll see, like, here's some Transtech stuff, what would have been, essentially. Which some of it actually did trickle into Armada, specifically the Optimus, the Megatron, Cheetor, which was then used with Blur from Animated. But, like, he's also, like, one of those guys, like, designers are always fascinating because when you go through their sketchbooks, you really see stuff that, never happened, but then it shows up in other things. So, really cool stuff. Actually, there is more guests. I'm actually going through the list. I'm totally forgetting. We also have Matt Moylan of Little Formers fame. Matt Moylan originally was a webcomic guy. He worked on a series called Little Formers, which was just kind of like a little parody series of Transformers done in an SD style.
I wish he would go back to that. I miss those.
They were really good. And then he started doing more 80s franchises too. He even got a shot where some of his stuff was published with the Club comic. For fun publications, but now he kind of works full time for Udon Comics, which pretty much is in charge of all of Capcom's fictional licenses. So he's the guy that if you bought Street Fighter 4, it came with a comic book. He was the guy who did that comic.
He was the guy. Doesn't he do Little Gotham by?
He does a lot of like parody stuff now in that style, but. His big stuff right now is that he's one of the, I think he's like the senior editor of Udon, which is in charge of Street Fighter, Mega Man, Darkstalkers, Rivals, any of the Capcom based stuff. And I believe because he's coming hot off the heels of San Diego Comic-Con, he's going to be bringing some San Diego Comic-Con exclusive books that were exclusive only at San Diego Comic-Con, they'll be available at his table for sale. So one of them, if I remember correctly, was a special hardcover art book of Street Fighter, a bunch of others. You'd have to tweet him and ask him exactly, but I know that he's bringing some of those too. And one of the last ones that we haven't, we have it's by demand essentially of people who want to get into reviewing. Chris Ho Vangelis and Benjamin Dole, known as PIA, two big toy reviewers of Transformers and just toys in general. They're going to be they're also guests, and they're going to be doing a panel this year, like they did last year, pretty much explaining how to do YouTube stuff in general, not just reviews. And I actually peeked in a bit of it last year, and I know that PR really, I'm telling you, like, for people who are listening, if you want to get into this, PR really has some very simple advice where you literally need almost nothing to do what he does. Like, it's where Vangelis, he takes it a little more seriously, fancy camera, tripod, all that 9 yards and everything. But PR, how he does it, it's quite fascinating what he does. I mean, he's going to explain in the panel. I don't want to, make you guys not have to go.
Spoil.
Yeah, but it's very simple. It's very self-contained, almost 2 purchases and you're done. And it's something that you have in your pocket right now, which is your phone essentially. But like what he does, it's very, and he's successful with it, So they're going to give advice and everything. It's called a fan media panel essentially, meaning it not just reviews, but anything in general, stop motion, whatever, And there's still more guests to be announced. I think we actually announced another one today, if I remember correctly. Let me just check TFW's front page, because we've been announcing guests like crazy.
You guys need to get Margaret Scott.
The recent guest we actually just announced was Silas Z. Silas Z was also someone who originally worked with BotCon. He's best known as the Transformers cheesecake artist, meaning that he's a guy who admittedly will always say, I'm better drawing girls than I am robots. So if you're someone who's really into fembot Transformer characters, he is the guy, because he loves drawing them, and he's a very talented artist. He's actually the guy that did the art for our box art for our exclusives this year, because one of them was a female character, and he's going to have 2 exclusive prints at his table related to our convention this year, 2 other GoBot characters. So very talented guy too, very, very talented guy, Silas.
I would say that in the future, you guys definitely need to go after Margaret Scott, one of the writers on Prime Beast Hunters comic, because she is a phenomenal Transformers fangirl. She was
actually at BotCon that passed, and I was at her panel because, I was again supporting the other IDW guys too. She really knows her stuff. She really does. And I was quite surprised, because usually when they bring in writers for the more mainstream stuff, like the movie stuff and everything, it's usually a guy that's more of a science fiction writer than a Transformer fan. But she actually knows her stuff, and when she was talking, I was like, okay, she really does. Yeah, I dig it.
Steve, any questions?
No. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be awesome. I wish I was going this year, but.
That's always the case.
I wish the theme was Beast Wars versus GoBots. That would be amazing. Have the beasts kill the GoBots.
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, we have a comic this year too. Like always, we do, and it's going to be GoBot based. And again, how I always write it, I'm the writer for all the fiction of the stuff, and I do the tech specs and everything. I always try to tie everything together without it being too convoluted. So you'll see how this all kind of works together with the past TFCon exclusives with these GoBots. And luckily, GoBots have clashed in the past with Transformer characters, with even BotCon fiction. So I try to pull from that and use that with the story. So, yeah.
Interesting. So what else do you guys have?
Oh, God. Well, why don't we pull up the schedule, which is absolutely packed to usually in the past I used to have to do panels because there was an empty hole somewhere, and they always just say, just put Protoman on stage and get him to talk for an hour. And honestly, I could totally do that. Just go Proto Man, Ironhide, 1 hour, go. All right, Ironhide was originally a Daikon Toyota 1. Yeah, I could literally do that. But this year, because we have so much, they've never, like, I do have stuff, like, I do have panels planned, but it was more because it was stuff that they really wanted to do and get me to do. But, like, starting with the Friday, we're going to start off the entire convention after registration, after you pick up your exclusives. The first thing we're going to start with is the Battle of the Rock Lords movie. Just to get people up to speed with GoBots, the Battle of the Rock Lords movie was kind of probably the best animation fiction of GoBots. And not to mention, it also features the voice of Dick Gautier and a lot of our other voice actors, so it kind of works out well. And it has all our exclusives in there. So for people that are like, who's Vanguard, who's Pathfinder, watch it, you'll get it, and it's not too bad. The Rock Lords movie, it's actually quite enjoyable compared to most GoBot stuff. And again, I like GoBots, but yeah, like most of it is, you kind of have to have thick skin for it. Then after that, we have the opening ceremony at 8:00, which is we pretty much let everyone know what's the big stuff planned this weekend, any surprises, which we usually have surprises at the opening ceremony, any stuff that needs clarification, because a lot of times there's people that are like, oh, I'm here to cosplay, where do I go? So the opening ceremony is kind of for that. We're going to, explain specific stuff, like, because we have a charity auction, so we're going to explain that in person, who's going to be running it.
Do you want to explain it here since we're talking about it?
Well, I'm not the one that's in charge of it, so I'll leave that to Ian. Essentially, because we're going to have two kinds of auctions. We're going to have a silent auction and a actual physical auction for the charity auction. And we're going to be debuting like what some of those big prizes are, and we have a lot. When we went to BotCon, a lot of the big stores that were there, Big Bad Toy Store, TF Source, ages 3 and up, a lot of those guys donated stuff to TFCon because they knew we were there at BotCon for the charity auction. So a lot of big prizes were donated. Let's just put it that way. So, and the good thing with the charity auction is 90% of the time, from what I've seen, you get the items a lot cheaper than what they actually are worth. And then on top of that, the money that you give goes straight to charity. So it's pretty awesome to win a Masterpiece Grimlock for $100 instead of $300. And all that money goes to charity, So,
right, yeah,
really awesome stuff. And there's tons of stuff in that auction. Like I can't, like, minimum like 60 items minimum. So yeah, wow. Like it's nuts. Last year too was nuts. There was actually stuff left over because there was too much. We didn't have enough time. So we actually prioritized the high-end items over the smaller-end items. And even the smaller-end items, mint-in-box Japanese G1 reissue Rodimus. Someone's going to want that. Maybe me. But,
Don't you already have 6
Yeah,
of
well, there you
those?
go. But I'm just saying, like, someone would have wanted that for $20, but we just didn't have the time to get to it. Like there was Masterpiece toys and big play sets. And not all of it is Transformers. There's autographs, too. Because when we go to BotCon, we try to get autographs from all the guests, and then we auction those too, because there's people that would love to get an opportunity to get Wally Burr's autograph or something, but just miss the opportunities because of location or they can't travel, so they get those chances also, and those sell well. And the thing is, not just Transformers. Last year we had David Hasselhoff, we had a lot of wrestlers, so. We always do well with that, and it's all for a good cause too in the end, which is the Sick Kids Foundation. So,
yeah, no, I think I think it's Auto Assembly's charity, whatever they're doing for their charity. I had pointed out to Simile Montano, voice of RC and Prime, hey, look, you're on a comic cover.
Yeah.
And she actually went out and had a comic shop hold her a couple of copies of it, and she sent one of them over to Auto Assembly. So that's another one. I know you guys are... I know most of these, and, no offense to TFCon, but like BotCon, up until this year, their guest list, at least the last 2 years, didn't really impress me, because hey, let's see what G1 person we can get today. Let's see what more we can just squeeze out of the G1 Bloodstone. And this year, I know a lot of people complained about the kid, but I was really surprised with that.
You know what it is too. Also, in our case, we really wanted to get these two guys because, again, no offense to them, they're not getting any younger. So I think that it's best to, like, Peter Cullen's still pretty young. A lot of those guys are still pretty young. But Jack Angel, Dick Gautier, these guys are in their 80s. No joke,
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, to my knowledge, I believe Dick Gautier is pushing 90s. So, so just to give you an idea, we kind of want to give people those opportunities now before they'll regret not getting them later. I mean, it's like, gee, I'd really like Scott McNeil. Don't worry. Scott McNeil will be around for a long time as long as he doesn't coke overdose, But
Well, Waspinator's close enough.
But the point is that, like, yeah, Scotty's great. So is David Kay. A lot of those Beast Wars guys, but they'll be around for a long time. And don't worry, they'll be like a lot of them have been to TF. Almost a lot that I've just mentioned have been to TFCon in the past. So there's we're trying to really target those guys that, like, I'm so glad that last year BotCon got Buster Jones. Also a dude who's not very young. The voice of the original G1 Blaster. So. I always appreciate those efforts, I always do. And same thing, that's why TFCon, we wanted to get those two guys. We actually have Judd Nelson's contact info, but there's priorities that we kind of had, so.
Yeah, no, I
actually got that.
That would have made for
Derek Wyatt. Actually, I'll give a shout out. Derek Wyatt, a good friend of mine, actually hooked me up with Judd Nelson's contact info because Judd Nelson was doing voices for Ben 10, the series that he's currently working on, and he's like, who'd really like the contact info? And I got a text message from Derek Wyatt, would you like to talk to Judd Nelson? And it's like, So we got into contact with him, but it's just, we were kind of wanted to, because to get a Judd Nelson would be kind of not having any other guests.
Well, what would be awesome is if next year you guys could do something special where for the 30th anniversary.
We'll see.
Of the brand. No, well, listen,
I don't want to say nothing.
30th anniversary of the brand. You could have Judd versus Dick Gautier, the Rodimus off.
If we could bring in Peter Cullen and Judd, that'd be great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be so
we'll
awesome.
We'll see. Again, we'll talk about that a year from now, and we'll be gushing about whatever we get. Other panels, again, like I mentioned before, the fan media panel with Pion Vangelis, as I said before. Check it out. It's really cool. At 9 o'clock is going to be the customization tutorial panel. This is actually ran by BotCon award-winning. This guy won at BotCon 2008. Dak Duncan. He went to BotCon 2008 and won the custom competition, and then he got runner-up the past years, although I believe it was rigged. But anyways, the years that he lost. Very talented dude, and he teaches people how to do crazy customization. He's really, really, really good. Like the thing about him is that he teaches people how to do customization with very little stuff to work with, because he's the kind of guy that he'll go to a Value Village, and he'll see a My Little Pony playset, and he'll be like, oh God, it's a My Little Pony playset, Value Village, 50 cents, that's garbage. But he looks at it and he'll be like, those horns on the top of the tower, those would make great like horns for a character. And he's an amazing customizer. Like he'll show you like figures and you'll be like, where did you get this from? Like he made a IDW wing. And if you look at it, you'll be like, that's an amazing figure. And then when he tells you, yeah, did you know I made that out of 2 G1 Galvatrons? And then you start looking at it and you go, oh my God, He literally gutted 2 G1 Galvatrons and made an IDW Thunderwing out of it. And if I showed you the picture, and now that you know it, you're going to see it, but you would have never made the connection before. And we're talking like super articulated from that bulky, crappy toy, Like he's and so he teaches people that. And he's also going to be assisted by Nemesis Predaking, another great customizer, and Transformers, a TFCon award-winning customizer who's also insanely talented. After that, at 9:45 is one of my panels. Coming back due to popular demand. Last year I did the Challenge of Convoy video game panel, which amazingly was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. People were horrible at the game. And it was a competition that the person who would beat the level 3 would get a prize. It was so bad that I had to give it away to whoever could just get the furthest, because that game is very difficult. But I didn't think it was going to be that difficult for people. So
Challenge of Convoy, isn't that the one
for
you
Nintendo? That's like ridiculously hard.
I've played that
before. But isn't that the one?
Yeah.
Isn't that the one where it's the movie characters.
You play as Ultra Magnus, pretty much defeating oversized versions of different characters, or well, most of them.
And it's one hit, you're down.
Yeah, and it's one hit death. And what I did was last year I put it up on the big screen, hooked up an old Nintendo system with the Famicom adapter, so you could play the original Japanese game, and huge lineup, big turnout. Vangelis actually has video footage of it. It's that hilarious. He's going to post it one day. If you guys ever get a chance to see what happened last year, it was hilarious because the whole crowd got behind people, because when one guy would get a little bit further, everyone would be all excited, and then boom, that one hit that kills you, and that's that. So there, but it was great. It was so great. So this year I'm coming back with it. I don't want to say which game it is because that's the thing. I don't want people
I'm just thinking of the one. Is Challenge of Convoy is that the one with all the animation stuff in it? There was one that you had done that was a game. I don't know if it was even a game that was ever made or ever released over here. It might have just been the Japanese game. But it's
you're talking the CG one there. Okay, you're referring to Transformers for the PlayStation 2. That was called, I believe, because it was just called Transformers, but the Japanese name for it, I believe, was called Battle of the Space Star or something. Yeah, and that was a Japanese only game that had English dialogue in it, because I guess there was an intent to release it at one point here. That was kind of a beat 'em up, but it had a lot of cinematic scenes that were really impressive. And that's the one you're referring to. No, it's not that one though.
Okay.
But what it is the game that I'm going to be using. Again, it's another game that it has a competition level to it, and I will be giving away prizes. We were donated a bunch of prizes by BTS Toys, which is a third-party company. So there's going to be, again, big, expensive prizes for just playing a video game. So make sure you guys show up and try to win. I don't want to say which game it is always, because I like it that it's a surprise. That way we don't have one guy who, like, when he hears this, he's going to stay at home training all day. It's going to be a ringer. I want it to be a surprise that everyone has a chance,
Oh yeah, no, I know. I completely. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on
that's totally cool.
What I was thinking of, because that one. Oh man!
Oh yeah,
that one with all the cutscenes is just awesome.
It is actually a really awesome game, and it actually addresses a lot of issues about the characters too. At 10 o'clock is the karaoke night. That's a new thing that's been added. It's going to be ran by Oasis, one of our female staff members. I have no idea what's planned for that, so I can't really tell you much. I assume it's going to be just generic karaoke, not just like Transformer-based karaoke, because I think that would get dry really quickly.
Yeah, there's only so many times people can sing the touch badly.
And I'm saying to myself, what are you going to play, like Pretty Handsome Awesome from like the first movie, which like no one knows what that is, what I just said. It's the song that was playing when Barricade was chasing Bumblebee in the first movie. But the funny thing is, all the songs that were used in the movie, none of the lyrics were used. It was just the tunes, yeah. So so I'm just kind of like, what really could you use for that? So I think it's going to be just generic karaoke, and it's just organized. But that's at 10 o'clock, and again, the bar is a crazy place to be, and the guests are already in the bar on the Friday night, chilling, making jokes. Again, if anyone who was there during the Gary Chalk, you had Gary Chalk playing the guitar. Paul Eiding and Simon Furman with their wives, like just hanging out, making jokes, laughing. Paul Eiding is a great guy because he always has stories. Last year with Scott McNeil, Scotty, oh man, him at the bar was jokes. And then you had Scott McNeil was at the bar hanging out. And then you had, on top of that, Joshua Perez and Derek Wyatt doing sketches for everybody, at the bar. So it was, again, TFCon, that's where we get our biggest rep, is that the convention has some of the most memorable stuff that is really personal, because you get right in the face of, and I guess that's kind of the good thing. And I don't want to say we're a small convention, we're not, but because we're not BotCon huge of 10,000 people with walk-ins, we're able to pull off stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's always been the greatest thing about your all's convention. Now, are you guys gonna have blue energon, green energon, and red energon as shots this year?
I don't know the complete alcohol list yet, But I remember last year we had a great one called the Hate Plague, which was a red drink that burned. I don't know what was in it exactly. And there was a great one last year. Oh man, it was called the Matrix. Okay, it was a drink called the Rodimus, which was a red drink. And then it had, I don't know if you're familiar with the drink. It's called a sake bomb. What a sake bomb is, it's a alcoholic drink, and then you drop a smaller shot glass of sake into it, and then it has a reaction with that alcoholic drink and changes the color. We did one that was called the Rodimus, which was a red drink, and then when you dropped it in, it was like a bluish orange. When you dropped it in, we called it the Matrix, and it changes the whole drink orange. So it would turn into from hot rod to Rodimus. It was a sake bomb that was the Matrix. So you put the Matrix in the drink and it becomes Rodimus. We were being really creative with the drinks. I think there was another one called the Waspinator. I don't remember them all. This year we have a whole bunch of new drinks. Again, we're going to be revealing them actually at the opening ceremony. And again, because we have a really good relationship with the bar. We get all of the sexy bar waitresses to wear Autobot buttons and everything. All the drinks are Transformer-based, and we force them to make all the food at the bar extremely cheap. That way, that weekend, you don't even have to really travel far to eat good. We're going to make it that you could actually eat within the hotel and not pay hotel prices. Because we essentially, awesome. One of our staff works for the hotel, so nice. we have a pull when it comes to that. So the waitresses are Transformer-based, the drinks are Transformer-based, the food is easy on your wallet. Another reason why TFCon is really good for people who are traveling from far, too, on top of that. It's really worth your while. That's just the Friday. Now the Saturday.
Wow.
Do you have anything you want to...
No, go ahead with Saturday. Well, Steve, did you have anything you wanted to ask him?
No.
Except I want to go, you know?
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year.
So Saturday, again, registration for people who didn't pick up their stuff on the Friday registration. We call it late registration. And then we have the deal room opens up for early admission and weekend pass holders. We kind of did something this year similar to what BotCon is doing, but it's not really like the golden ticket. It's just that we kind of wanted to reward people who do get the weekend pass, you know. So we did kind of create something that's like a Primus package, where if you do get the weekend pass, you are now what's called a premium pass holder. So you'll get early admission to the dealer room, and you'll be able to get in line before everyone else for autographs. So like there'll be like the early admission people will also be able to get the autographs before everyone else, essentially. Then the weekend pass holders, pretty much the people who get just the one-day pass just to meet the voice actor and leave. So we want to kind of reward the people who are dedicated fans who do come to the convention, shop at the dealer room, hang out, talk, cosplay. Those are the people that deserve those advantages, where usually the people who just come in for the guest and leave and not really buy anything or do anything, we make it that there's an incentive to get the weekend pass, essentially.
Oh, nice.
Now, at 9:05, we're going to be starting the art contest registration. So for people that have their 3D art, which is customs, and then 2D art, which is paintings and everything, at 9:05 at the Garrison foyer, you'll be able to register your stuff there. There will be a TFCon staff that'll register it for you because people have been asking a lot about that. You'll be directed to it. We have tons of volunteers all over the place wearing staff shirts and stuff, so you'll be able to be directed to where you need to be. At 10 o'clock opens for general admission. At 11 o'clock we're going to have a Q&A with James Roberts, and that's probably going to be filled with spoilers, but
I'm sure.
But if you do want to check out that amazing writer with that amazing comic book, then in all honesty, in my opinion, is probably some of the best TF fiction in a very long time, definitely check out that panel. At 12 o'clock, we're going to be starting Jack Angel and Dick Gautier's Q&A panel, where they're going to reminisce about G1 Season 3 and then all the stuff that they worked on together in the past. So that's going to be amazing. That one I don't want to miss at all, because to have those two together, and in all honesty, those two have not been together since G1. That's the thing.
Jack Angel
and Dick Gautier. They have not been together since G1, so it's going to be pretty crazy, that one. At 1 o'clock, the charity auction starts. I already kind of talked about that. At 1 o'clock also, is going to be the early signings for Jack Angel, Dick Gautier, and James Roberts for the autograph signings, just for the weekend pass holder early admission holders. At 2:00, we'll begin Venus and Marilyn Lightstone's Q&A, where they're going to talk about voice acting as in the female division and how it takes to get into it and stuff. So that'll be pretty cool, because you have Venus, who's a young voice actor, who is, again, she comes from the Deke generation, the anime generation, which is more of the young voice acting. And then you have Marilyn, who comes from the 70s, and she did scripting and writing too. So, and she's from the Hanna-Barbera era, so she could talk about how voice acting happened in that era. So really interesting stuff with that. It's kind of similar to what happened when we had Neil Ross and Gary Chalk together, because Gary, while he's an older guy, he comes from still the younger generation of voice acting, which is similar to Venus, where Neil Ross comes from the 70s and the 80s. So it was really interesting to see that contrast with those two of how it was to get into voice acting back then and what to do as opposed to today. So it'll be kind of the same thing with these two, but now from a lady's perspective, Also at 2:00 will then be Jack Angel, Dick Gautier, and James Roberts now signing for general admission. At 3:00 is the third-party product preview panel. Just like how at BotCon people get excited for the BotCon preview panel, which is where Hasbro talk,
Right.
we have something similar, which is third-party. We get sent stuff, prototypes, everything, images, all the third-party stuff that's going to be happening in the next year to 2 years in advance. We have stuff that are not going to be happening until 2015 even.
Wow.
Well, that's what happened last year. Last year we had stuff that still isn't going to be coming out until 2014. So, and the funny thing is, we're going to kind of be reiterating some of that stuff in the panel this year too. It's like, hey, remember last year we talked about this? Well, it's still coming, So a whole bunch of stuff. We have a whole bunch. We have 2 glass displays that are going to have prototypes of third-party stuff that were sent to us from the creators to show off to you guys. Tons of stuff coming out. I've already seen all the stuff, so getting ready for the panel. Let me tell you something, guys. Stuff that is mind-blowing. Great looking stuff. Let's just put it that way. I can't talk about any of it really, but that's what the panel's about essentially. Check it out. It's always packed. Be there early. It's always packed, that one. Then at 3:00, Venus and Marilyn are going to be doing autograph signings for Weekend Pass early admission together. At 4:00 is the Transformers costume competition, which is going to be judged by, I believe, Cheersian from the boards and Transformers. So any Transformer-based costumes show up at the Hazel Room, and they'll begin the costume competition. And there's prizes and everything, so if you have something, come check it out. At 4:00, we'll also begin the general admission for the signings of Venus and Marilyn. At 4:45 is the TFCon Awards, and what that is essentially is we're going to be awarding all the winners from the Transformer-based stuff thus far, thus the 2D art contest, the 3D art contest, the costume competition, and we actually do have, like what we've done in the past, we do have statues that are Transformer-based that are done in gold, silver, and bronze for the winners. So, and if you could Google the past ones that we've done of them, I'll just show you TFCon.
That is so cool.
No, they're amazing actually. I don't even know how to describe them, but
yeah, so cool. I mean, it seems to, I always hear everybody that goes to BotCon, even you say it's a fun time, but every time you tell us about TFCon, it seems like it's so much better.
Well, what it is essentially is because, and I love BotCon, but I think that because BotCon has become more of a business, and that's what it literally is. It's kind of, TFCon is fun, and it stays fun. BotCon is business, and it stays business. And I think that while you could still have fun with business, at the end of the day, it's still a business. And I mean, the sad thing is, and I know people were making this comparison, but it's so true. At least when it comes to BotCon compared to SDCC that just passed, the sad thing is that SDCC still has the fun, and that's how it manages to be better than BotCon this year, even as a Transformer convention, where BotCon had all these reveals, SDCC had all the same reveals and more on display than BotCon had.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, when you really measure it, the BotCon box set, which was $360, a lot of people weren't a big fan of it. But for $150, it got you that SDCC Metroplex. Which would you rather have at more than 50% less the value?
Oh,
you know what I mean? But if you say you want to even it out, okay, which would you rather have? That BotCon box set for $360 or SDCC Metroplex for $150? For an extra $100, you get the G.I. Joe versus Transformers set, and then throw in another $50 to make it $350 even, and you get the Shockwaves Lab. So those three things against the box set, which would you rather have? And they're the same price. You know?
Yeah, those three things. Because I'm
exactly, and I think that's where BotCon, the fun is missing. The fun is missing, and it's just business. Where SDCC, it still had the fun and all that other stuff around it.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you're going to,
and they were both in San Diego, so it's like you just had to pick one or the other.
I know. Well, if you're going to go to a Transformers convention, I'm sure there are plenty of fans, maybe not as much, but plenty of fans for Machine Wars. But you have to market to the mass of collectors. Not all collectors are going to want a Machine Wars set.
The thing that really bothered me, and I remember I mentioned that right when I was in the panel, was when we were in the Hasbro panel, they said, oh, by the way, that fan-built character that you guys were voting for, we're going to reveal that at SDCC. And then I literally turned around to all my friends in the panel. I said, so let me get this straight. The fan-created character is not going to be debuted in the convention dedicated to the fans. Instead, it's going to be debuted at SDCC. That doesn't make any sense, you know? And it's not like they didn't have it in time or like everything was ready. It's just they were going to debut it at SDCC. They just felt, you know, that's unfortunately the way BotCon is going now. I don't want to badmouth it. I'm going to be there next year, like every other year. I still love going there. I love the people there and stuff. But there's a certain vibe to it that has changed a lot from its early years, unfortunately. But going back to like TFCon, like I was saying, so you have the awards that, you know, check that out. You'll get to see those amazing statues. Deal room closes at 5:00. Then at 5:00 we start the script reading auditions. Now then, you want to do a voice with Dick Gautier and Jack Angel and do a season 3 story? Hold on to your pants, man. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to spoil much about it, but I heavily suggest people check out that script reading. The audition's at 5:00. The actual reading is at 6. It's going to be crazy.
I'm sure it is.
Then we have at 6:25 is the Canadian Transformers fan group photo. That's where all the fans essentially get into one big shot and we take a giant photo. Last year, wow, when we actually reviewed the photo, we realized, wow, there's a lot more people at TFCon than we thought. It practically filled an entire parking lot, and like we had to get a high res. We had to get a high res photo guy to take the photo. Oh, man.
Wow.
I don't even know where I could find the photo offhand so quickly, but like it was huge. It was ridiculously huge. And the thing is too, in the parking lot, we're going to try to bring them back again for this year, but we have replicas of Barricade, the beater Bumblebee, which is like Bumblebee's first form, Ironhide from G1, like the original Ironhide G1, like replica 1x1 scale functioning cars.
Oh, sweet.
We had a replica of the Tim Burton Batmobile.
Oh, nice.
So like we also get those. Those are all outside the convention center. Obviously, we can't fit them inside, but like those are there too. So like when you're doing the fan group photo, you'll notice all of that stuff outside, which looks absolutely gorgeous. And oddly enough, last year we also had a impersonator Megan Fox lookalike where you could take a photo with the Bumblebee.
I'm sure she was way hotter than Megan Fox.
She was a good-looking chick. Honestly, she kind of looked like Megan Fox if you squint your eyes, but still a good-looking chick. She was our Megan Fox impersonator, so you could take a picture of her looking under the hood. And anyways, just to give you an idea of the fun that could be had, essentially. At 6:30, tradition of TFCon since our inception, we always play the 1986 movie. And tradition, as always, of all these years, Proto Man will be in the front, screaming like a little girl every time, watching that movie. So be sure to check that out. That we always play the 86 movie. It's always super fun to watch it with a whole bunch of other fans. And
now, when you guys have been playing it these last couple of years, I would say since 2007, are you using the 20th anniversary DVD set?
We would upgrade as we went along. For the longest time, we used the original Rhino DVD because when we started in 2001, that was available to us. And then we started using the 25th anniversary one because if anyone who's a big DVD perfection,
there is no 25th
anniversary one. Excuse me.
Yeah,
if anyone's a big DVD purist when it comes to the 86 movie, there actually was, in between the beginning and the end of the Junkion scene when they first showed up, the whole DVD turns grainy. And it was just the original master that they had at the time, Rhino. When Shout did the 20th anniversary one, that is missing from it now. It's actually done in a high DVD quality. Granted, there's other flaws here and there also, like Rodimus being more pink than being red. Because the transfer that they had was not as good. But we go with that one because it's the newest one. It looks more consistent through and through. And it's played on a big, gigantic projector a la movie style. So you won't really notice the pink anyways, per se, because you're watching it on a big projector. So it's really awesome to just watch the 86 movie. So we have that. That's going to be in the Hazel Room on a big projector with all the other fans. Have fun doing that. There's still more, actually, just a little more. At 8 o'clock is the Faction Feud. What that is every year we have a Transformers trivia competition. Outside of the Hazel Room, there will be a sign-up sheet that's going to be there all of the Friday and Saturday where you guys could sign up your teams for the Faction Feud. What Faction Feud is, it's Transformers Family Feud, meaning you and 4 other guys are entering a trivia contest, but done in the Family Feud style. So it'll be like, and this is hosted by Vangelis and me. What it is to give you an example, it'll be like, and it's stuff that makes you think. It'll be like, name 8 characters from Beast Wars that have ridden on each other. Now, it really makes you think, because then you go, okay, Optimus Primal on Rhinox, Dinobot on top of Tarantulas at one point when he was riding him like a psych. Rat Trap on top of Pterosaur. You know what I mean? Like it's questions that are not hard. They're in your brain, the answers, but you got to think about them. You've watched Beast Wars a million times. You know these answers, but you just got to think about them. So all the questions are not really hard, but they're good thinking questions. So
why am I now thinking of all the GCRN crew that are Transformers fans? Me, Steve, Kevin, Optimus Solo, Michael Wilson, all of us going up there and being a team, and Steve is basically the Sheldon of the group when it comes to Beast Wars.
And it's always like that though. There's always like a strong team, and then there's always like that one guy that's like, I don't know RID, because the thing is we cover all across the spectrum. Toy, comic book, we make sure that it's not just one thing. So everyone, like, we do obscure Japanese stuff, and it's all stuff that it's not too hard. It's not like in manga issue number 17 of the Japanese release of Transformers 2010, who was eating the yellow lollipop? It's just like, no, we're not going to do stuff like that. But it's stuff it's manageable. And because the way Family Feud works is that if one person fails, that's a big opportunity for the other people to steal the points for people that are familiar with Family Feud. So even if someone has a really strong team, if they screw up at the end, it gives the weaker team still a chance to make a comeback. So it's something we started about 3 years ago after our normal trivia. And we actually have like buzzers like Family Feud style. So check that out. Really fun. And there's prizes. Also, every competition has prizes, and they're amazing prizes. One of the prizes many years ago was 1 week advanced screenings to the Revenge of the Fallen movie, just to give you an idea when it was coming out. So we always have we always have crazy prizes like that. So
See, the buzzers, they should almost sound like transform up, transform down noises.
We
to me.
used to, back in the day when we were really ghetto with TFCon.
Come on, you guys got to bring that
We
back.
used to use the Optimus Prime voice box from G2. Each person had one, and they would have to push the what do you call it? Not the transformer sound, the gun sound on the Optimus Prime voice box, and not the "I am Optimus Prime" one, but the other one. And then obviously we actually upgraded to legitimate buzzers that are like Family Feud, that you actually put your hand down and you push it and it makes the sound, and we're able to tell who pushed it first. Like we've actually upgraded with technology and everything. So that's what happens when we have more budget. We make it a little better. And then at 10 o'clock is the official TFCon after party. But in all honesty, there's always an after party, so it doesn't need to be official, but this one's official. So now. Sunday, 9 o'clock, like I said, Saturdays is 100% dedicated to Transformers. And I've said this before in the past, what we used to have problems with, and I think it was Big Bad Toy Store was an issue, was that these were guys that, they make they make the effort to travel and everything, but they want to be able to sell their other merchandise too. They're not just a Transformer store like a TF Source or...
Right.
So we worked it out that the Sunday... And this was when we did it our first year. This was a couple years ago. The Sunday would be anything goes. And it ended up evolving into probably the best thing about TFCon, in my opinion, the 80s Toy Expo. You come Saturday, and this is another thing. I don't want to badmouth BotCon, but this is a truth, especially with someone like me who owns a lot, and it's very difficult to find something I'm missing. But the sad thing with BotCon is that Friday evening, when you get the early preview of the dealer room, after that's done, that's the deal room for the next 3 days. Nothing's going to change. What you saw is what you get.
Yeah.
With TFCon, you come Saturday, it's all Transformers. Transformers, this, all these Transformer dealers. You walk into that dealer room Sunday, everything's flipped on its head. Now there's new dealers, new toys. Now it's not Transformers anymore. Now it's He-Man, Power Rangers, GoBots, Voltron, Star Wars. King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, all kinds of 80s and 90s toy lines, and new dealers. And the best part about it is the way that we run the Sunday is the tables are cheaper. So we also, because for people that don't want to do both days because they don't have a Transformer stock, we give the opportunity for people that aren't like big stores that have the budget to take 2 tables or whatever. You get a lot of mom and pop people showing up with a lot of cheap stuff. And let me tell you something, when it comes to conventions, always check the bins. The bins of loose stuff. You get mom and pops that have bins of loose stuff in there, and then that's where you find, this is a true story. Complete UK stalker, which is what was used for Machine Wars Soundwave and stuff, $1.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
Mom and pop, because to them it's just a robot. And and the Sunday has tons of people like that, where it's a mom and pop garage sale kind of scenario. They just brought all the old toys of their grandchildren, 25 cents, $1. The Sunday is nuts. Like, I love Transformers, but that Sunday, when it opens it up to everything else, is when things get crazy cool. Because and that's the thing too. BotCon had 22 separate dealers. TFCon has 130 separate dealers. Think about that for a second, okay? So that really gives you variety. And why variety is important? You walk into a dealer room and you say, you know what? I want to get Masterpiece Sideswipe. When there's only 22 dealers and only 3 dealers have Masterpiece Sideswipes, those dealers aren't trying to beat each other on the price because they know they're the only game in town. You walk into a TFCon dealer room where there's 2 days with 120 individual dealers and 50 of those have Masterpiece Sideswipes, they're going to be fighting to put the best price to get you to buy it. And that only works in your favor. You know what I mean? The old saying, competition is the spice of life, and that always is good for business, So that's the thing. It works great in your favor for that. And just all the cheap stuff, the fact that there's all this variety, because, hey, we love Transformers, but we love other stuff too. We love Power Rangers. We love this. We love that, We love the Tick. We love comic books. We love X-Men. So it's all there for you. And because, like I said before, we're coming fresh off of San Diego Comic-Con, you know what's going to be in that dealer room, especially also. A lot of those dealers are coming from San Diego and from the California region. You looking for San Diego Comic-Con exclusives and you don't want to have to deal with shipping or possibly having to get outbidded at the last second on a $300 morpher that's made out of 24 karat gold, it'll be at the dealer room. Buy it now, right there and then, no shipping, in your hand. You know?
Steve, you should have gone this year. Yeah, Steve and I have something interesting about our friendship over the years. He basically forced me into comics, like full-time reading comic books. And I now, with the Power Rangers podcast that I do and rewatching all the series, I've basically forced him into enjoying Power Rangers again.
Yeah, and let me tell you something, like, especially now, Sentai is huge, which is what Power Rangers is original source material. Last year, there was a lot of Power Ranger guys that showed up, like selling Power Ranger merchandise, Japanese specifically or American. And then on the Sunday, because the mom and pop people show up, a lot of Power Ranger merch that's, let's call it used merchandise, like older toys. This year it's going to be even more nuts because I already know some of the guys that are coming this year, like in terms of dealers, and they intend to bring almost only Power Ranger stuff for their tables because they know how big it is right now, especially with the 30th anniversary coming up and all the STCC exclusives. So it's going to be pretty crazy. If you're a Power Ranger fan, there's going to be a lot of stuff for you there on Sunday.
How much is what? You guys have day passes,
yes,
right?
We do.
What does a Sunday day pass cost?
Let me just pull it up for you right now. Let me find it here. Here we go. Sorry. Okay, the weekend admission, which is all gives you that early bird special, we call it the premium, right? Is $50. Early admission tickets for Saturday, because there's guys who want early admission just for the Saturday, like the walk-in people, is $30 just for the Saturday, which is Transformer Day, let's call it, just for Saturday. Regular admission for just Saturday, Transformer Day, is $20. Now, early admission for the Sunday. Now, Sunday, it has a whole bunch more dealers, has a lot more people at it. It's also the cheapest day. Early admission is $20. General admission is only $10.
Steve, you better start talking to your wife because you guys got some driving to do.
$10 to get in.
Yeah, I know. I went last year. I won't be able to go this year. She's got an event going on, so.
And as it stands right now, the TFCon exclusives, Roswell and Vanguardian, are for walk-ins, because if you pre-reg, you obviously got a special deal. The walk-ins, they'll be $50 each. And
that's not bad.
Which isn't too bad at all. It's a pretty good price considering what they are, limited number exclusives that are like the iGear molds themselves of Hench and UFO are $40. So $10 more. It's a limited one from a convention. And let me tell you something: the iGear ones don't come in boxes like these ones, or they come with the special trading card that we have, because we have a special trading card made up, and the comic book is free. So pretty worth it for $50 a pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we have the two extra exclusives. Unfortunately, at the time, I don't know what the prices are on those. But, I mean, if you base it off of the Wrecking Crew original releases of them, obviously pump up a little more of the price because they're limited edition. I believe we're only going to have 300 of them. So, and they're going to probably fly. So, I don't know. And we also have kid prices where kids between 5 and 12, it's only $5 to get in regardless of what day it is. And it's no charge for children under 5. So you get in for free. And I believe that's it for the admission stuff, essentially. Now, Sunday, again, like I said, everything changes up. Everything gets crazy. Now, in terms of events and stuff, at 9 o'clock we start actually, I forgot to mention, there's a customizing class that exists. Last year we used to do it only on the Sunday. It would only be on the Sunday. It would start at 9 o'clock. It would usually, unfortunately, it's about a 5 to 6 hour class. So it usually ends about the time that the deal room closes, unfortunately. But the customization class was always a big hit, and we would always sell out. This year, what we did was we actually managed to get Hasbro to send us extra copies of figures so we can make 2 customization classes of the same figure. So we have one on Friday, but it actually happens early at lunchtime on the Friday. I forgot to mention that. And then you have the exact same customization class, the same teacher, same figure and everything. Starts same thing on the Sunday at 9 a.m. We've revealed who it is thus far. We've been hiding it, but it's Decepticharge, which was originally a Alternators character, and was used in the Kiss Play Fiction also. So we managed to get 70 Prime Bumblebees, which of course there's been no shortage of them to begin with.
Oh no!
70 Prime Bumblebees and a new head sculpt for everyone. Molded, casted, and made for this Bumblebee. New head sculpt, looks like Decepticharge. Sticker sheet provided by Repro Labels. Because if you've seen how Decepticharge looks, he had a whole bunch of advertisements and sticker applications and stuff on him, like a lot of details. So you're going to have your prime version of Decepticharge. And in all honesty, it looks great on that mold. It's very weird, but it works. So that's going to be happening at 9 o'clock for those who go. I think at the registration table, we still have 3 or 4 slots left. So I think some people still might be able to get in on that, to my knowledge. There's still some slots left because sometimes people, they register for it and then they have to cancel their whole thing. So it's usually leftovers. But this year I know there's 3 or 4 left because we did 70 slots this year. And it didn't sell out instantly, but it sold. I believe the Friday sold out. The Sunday didn't sell out. There's still 3 or 4 left, so there still is a chance. At 10 o'clock, the deal room opens for early admission, and then weekend pass holders. Also at 10 o'clock begins the cosplay panel, which is this is new to this year. We have Mirai Baby, who is a professional cosplayer. She's done San Diego Comic-Con, all the BotCon stuff. She is a extremely talented individual.
Yes, she is.
She has done cosplay of animation-accurate characters from Prime and stuff. She's going to be hosting a panel with one of our local awesome cosplayers, Vanessa. And Vanessa also, she's the one who done the animation-perfect Black Arachnia from Transformers Animated, as well as Bumblebee and stuff. So those two together are going to be hosting a panel talking about how to do cosplay, because cosplay is getting bigger and bigger. And so they're going to talk about, materials, how they do it, especially Mirai Baby, what her sources is, what she does to make her stuff, inspiration, just the whole process of it. At 11 o'clock, deal room opens up to general admission. At 12 o'clock, very interesting panel. I heavily suggest the creation of comic books with James Roberts and to be announced. Essentially, we're going to decide which artists. How I see it, don't take my word for it, but I see it being James Roberts, Alex Milne, and Joshua Perez, because those 3 represent the beginning and end of a comic book. James Roberts, the script, Alex Milne, the pencils and inks, Joshua Perez, the finalization, coloring, and lettering. So I think that if you're someone who wants to get into the comic book industry, and me who's written comics in the past, I was taught by Alex Milne himself in 2008 how to write a comic book, and it's a very interesting process. It's not as easy as you think it is. So this is going to be a panel that really opens up your mind to how that process works, and the beginning, middle, and end of it, and it's fascinating. After that, then James Roberts is going to go down to the Britannia room to do more autographs. So if you missed a chance to meet James Roberts and get his autograph, now's your chance. At 1 o'clock, also at the same time, is a very important panel, How to Get into Voice Acting with Jack Angel, Dick Gautier, and Venus. And they're going to teach you how literally to get into the business, because it's always the common question from every Q&A. So now we've literally dedicated an entire panel to it. And I know that when Gary Chalk and Neil Ross did it, they did it spectacular, because they literally showed everyone in that room where to start, what to do. Last year we also had Wally Burr. Wally Burr was amazing because the thing with Wally Burr, he's a very to pardon my French, he's a no shit guy kind of guy. He doesn't take no shit. So he literally told people, here's how you know if you suck or not, and you're wasting your time, and and you should think of another dream. But the stuff he was saying, while it was very chorus, it was a reality. And it was great because at the same time, it was really getting through to people, He was literally explaining to people take your cell phone, because everyone now has cell phones that have voice recorders. Record yourself. Play it back to yourself. Now, here's one of two responses I will expect. If you think you're good, then you're lying to yourself, you have a bad ear, and you should not be in the industry. If you have criticism, then you have space to grow, and you belong among us. And that was a really good, and when he said that, it's like, you know what? That's really good, because there's a lot of people that think they can voice act, and they think they're great, but they're not. You know what I mean? But the people who usually are good voice actors always strive to better themselves. They always see flaw in their design, but they're the ones that we see as talent. So, he was the one who really cut through all of that, and his panel was great too. So again, having Dick Gautier, having Jack Angel, and having her, Venus from the new generation, showing how this all works, this process, and how to get into it, it'll be really fascinating. Always great to have that. And then at 2 o'clock, all those voice actors just mentioned, autographs. So at the same time, at 2 o'clock, we'll begin the 80s toy costume competition. So now we had Transformer-only costume competition on Saturday. Sunday opens up to everything else. Last year, wow, the stuff we got last year. We had a Weird Al Yankovic costume.
Nice.
We had a guy who dressed up as the Hulk, but he literally buffed himself up and everything. We had a guy dressed as King Muscle, which is Muscle, like the old Muscle toy line, Kaniku Man. We had, what else? There was, I'm trying to remember, there were so many. They were hilarious. It opens up essentially to other stuff too. And the thing is, when it opens up to 80 stuff, you get a lot of people who try to be very creative. And so that's really fun and awesome.
I saw Doc Brown there last year.
What?
Doc Brown.
Yeah, there was a Doc Brown. Yeah, exactly. There was a Doc Brown. There was a Doc Brown because Vanessa cosplayed as a transforming DeLorean that year.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was great.
So it was a transform, she'd actually curl up into a working DeLorean with lights, and not working as in it goes back in time, but it had working lights and stuff. And again, talent beyond talent in this show. Just so many talented people there. At 3 o'clock is going to begin another panel that I'm going to be doing this year, and this is one I've been wanting to do for a few years, but been passing it up because of other stuff, and now I'm going to do it. It's the Prototypes, Lucky Draw, and Other Rare Toys panel. When I started, I'm a person who collects prototypes, Lucky Draws, really rare Transformer stuff. I started noticing as the years progressed, especially with China being a big factor in the eBay game with third party and everything, and bootlegs, there's a lot of fake stuff out there. Yeah. To the point that a friend of the podcast, Callie, Puggle Formers, a lot of times she'll show me auctions going, "Oh, Proto Man, I found this prototype of Rodimus," and literally the auction will say authentic prototype, 100% not fake, from China. And no offense, I know the seller personally. The seller only deals in bootlegs.
Wow,
it's
just
totally
so
a fake. So I'm going to be bringing fake prototypes, real prototypes, fake Lucky Draws, real Lucky Draws, fake BotCon exclusives, real BotCon exclusives. And this panel is going to be very touchy-feely. I'm going to want everyone to sit up in front, and I'm going to literally teach people how to spot fakes, and even when you're on eBay where you can't touch and see it, how to spot fakes. Because as a collector of this, you encounter it all the time. All the time there's people saying, "Oh, I have a prototype of this," when it's not. You know what I mean? And
speaking of Callie and Rodimus, I heard you snaked Optibotimus.
Did I?
Didn't you buy a Rodimus Puggle from her this year?
That wasn't you. Someone else did.
Wow.
Well,
I thought it was
Callie
you.
always sells out her stuff way before anyone gets to it anyway. She does some good stuff. Which, by the way, Callie's going to be at the convention too.
Is she coming
Yep,
to TFCon
she's going to be at
this year?
TFCon this year. Just to give you an idea of how many people are coming this year. She's not considered an official artist, but she is going to be in the artist alley too with her merchandise. So look forward to that. On top of all of that, also is that I'm going to be showing pretty much how to buy this stuff, how to get it cheaply, because I mean, there's like with that kind of stuff, it's always about opportunity rather than just having a fat wallet. You know, where to look for it, how to look for it, and just rare transformers in general. And when I mean rare transformers, I don't mean like a G1 transformer that's hard to find. That's not rare in my opinion. I mean like Grandis. I mean like, you know, Grand Max, like really rare stuff. How to find it, where to look, how to get it cheap. It's a panel for guys that have fat wallets and want to see some rare stuff in the process. I will actually have 2 security guards on door for that because the amount of merchandise that are going to be in this room is going to be quite outstanding in value. And actually, the BotCon that just passed, I recently purchased a prototype Masterpiece Rodimus. So you'll be able to see what that looks like in prototype form also, and how the process changes throughout the process, you know, what changes from a prototype from the final product. It's going to be an interesting panel, to say the least. And truth be told, I haven't finished packing for it yet. What else? Deal room closes at 4 o'clock. And then at 4 o'clock begins the Q&A for the convention organizers. That's going to be me, Super Megatron, and Cheers Ian. And it's essentially where you, the fans, get to ask us questions about TFCon, suggestions, what we could do. The thing about this convention is that we always want suggestions to make it better. That is how we've gotten to what we are today because of what fans have suggested and what they've wanted. And granted, yes, there's always that like one suggestion that won't happen. But when stuff is very obvious it needs to be changed or fixed, we do that. We're able to, like, one example is at the registration table, we are able to service about 400 attendees in less than half an hour because we created it's literally a chain system of how the registration goes and how you get exclusives.
Interesting. Anything's better than those alphabetical lines.
Yeah, well, we don't have that. We just have, it's a first come, first served basis, but considering how fast we work things, everything goes perfectly smooth. And Callie's sending me a message. Someone's been snitching. I
have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyways, so like it's a Q&A. We're going to talk about ideas for next year. Talk about how we did stuff this year. Like what, you know, it's an insider's look of how the convention functions, and also people could ask questions. Essentially,
See, this is something you would never see at BotCon.
Because it would get nasty. That's
okay, but seriously, if you're going to do something like exactly what you're saying about, you know, the ins and outs of creating a convention.
Well, yeah, it helps people understand why something.
Exactly, and I think if they would do that, it would be, people might understand a little bit more.
Of course, and that's why we open it always up to questions too, because we want to know what is on your mind, what we could fix and everything, and just people always have other questions too, because they read the fiction and then they always have like, oh, can I ask you an extra question about the fiction? Was that character in the background supposed to be so and so? Because I always put background characters, so it's an opportunity for people to get that stuff out of their system.
What's the deal with the TFCon DVDs?
The TFCon DVDs are actually available at the registration desk. We have a guy named Evan Entertainment, who's a professional DVD producer. He's been actually producing our TFCon DVDs not since the beginning, but since 2005, where he's been literally every single panel is recorded and documented in high quality. So every single voice acting or whether it be even some of the smaller panels, it's documented and recorded. Unless it's like a Hasbro reveal panel or something, usually or a third-party panel where something can't be on screen. But usually, in general, everything is documented by him. And on top of that, it's just it's the convention experience. So it's him going around at the bars, at the dealer room. It's just a TF, like if you weren't able to be there, or it was originally invented as a souvenir thing, where the year that you went, he would record everything, and if you came back the following year, here's a souvenir from last year of everything that you did. You know what I mean? So, but then it started becoming really popular because when the panels started really becoming serious business, people started picking them up just to see the panels. Especially when the voice acting was, a lot of voice actor fans to be able to see voice acting auditions that were, because our Phil Gervais, who's involved with our voice acting panels and the script reading, he always writes really crazy script readings. So you always see a lot of crazy stuff together, and people want to have that documented. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
After that, at 5 o'clock, after the organizers panel, we're going to have a live recording of the WTF and TFW podcast with Vangelis, Smith, which is one of his co-hosts, and I don't know who else. That's the only two that I know of WTF that are going to be there. So there might be some other people that'll join them. Who knows? And then at 9 o'clock is the wind down party. Swimming pool.
Very awesome.
Again, it's loaded. Loaded, this convention. And I don't want to brag, but we have way more guests than BotCon. We have way more dealers than BotCon. We don't have more exclusives, but I think that's the only thing we follow. We have a comic just like they do. But, I mean, it's loaded. If you missed, and I always say this, especially to Americans, Canada isn't as far as you think it is. Mariah Baby lives in California. She's coming down. Callie lives in Texas. She's coming down.
No, Callie lives in New York.
New York? Who's lives
Yes.
in Texas?
I live in Michigan. It was like a 3-hour drive, I believe.
Exactly. I live in Montreal. I'm a Canadian. It's a 6-hour drive. You know what I mean? So, but the thing is that, and what people have to realize is that the BotCon experience for a lot of people that are American, even if they fly within their country, is still usually a $200 to $400 plane ticket, depending on how far you are. Then a Primus package of $360. A hotel that's usually between $200 to $300. And let's not even talk about food. You're already usually $1.2 grand in the hole before you walked in the dealer room. TFCon, we have a hotel rate, which right away is dropped down to $90 a night if you use our code. Which when you pre-registered, you were given the code, although we could give it to you anyways, if you come. But there's a hotel code, which you get cheap nights. Now, here's the thing. If you fly from wherever you are in the United States into Buffalo, still staying within the United States, and then you taxi across the border to TFCon, it is still cheaper than going to BotCon. We've had artists from IDW that have had to fly in from Cali, which is all the way in the west. They end up in Buffalo, and then they taxi, and we cover their stuff. We cover their charges, and it was still cheaper than flying within and then going to BotCon and then paying for all that stuff. In the end, it's about $300 to $400 cheaper, and you get the exclusives. Imagine. And you're going to another country. Think about that for a second. So in a way it's a vacation. If it's your first time in Canada, just make sure you have a passport, because that's all you really need to have. And it's always good to have a passport. Hey, who knows? One day you might want to go to Japan, Amsterdam. Who knows? The point is that it's always good to have a passport, even if you're not going to use it. It's another piece of ID. But it's not expensive to get to TFCon. If you're someone who lives on the border, I don't know what your excuse is. No offense, bro, but I'm just saying in general. Obviously, if you have prior engagements or stuff, or money's an issue, but in general, it's super easy to get there. I know so many people that carpool. It's like the reason why we've gotten so big is that we've made a proactive effort to help people figure out ways to get to the convention. And because the sad, unfortunate truth that we learned as Canadians is that Americans don't travel outside of their country. And I don't blame you guys, because you have a vast country that you could have the heat of Florida, the calmness of California beaches, yet the snow of New York City. You have all those different flavors of culture and weather and sights and scenes that, in all honesty, I don't blame you. There's not much of an incentive to want to leave the country when it comes to traveling. Where Canadians, because we also we're a very cultural background, we're a lot more of a mixing pot of culture and stuff, and because we all live on the border and all experience the same weather, we tend to travel out. Number one, we always go to the United States like crazy. That's our number one destination. But we also travel. We tend to travel a lot more Europe, Japan, China than any other country, especially the United States. So a lot of Americans never really consider getting a passport to travel outside of their country. And not to mention, especially if you live in the South, who wants to go to Mexico? You know. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I myself, I'd rather go to TFCon than go to BotCon, not only because of distance, and price, but just I went last year and I was real impressed. And it was the first convention I'd been to in a long time, and
I always say ask people, like you don't ask me, even though I go to BotCons like crazy and I co-run TFCon. Don't ask me because it might sound biased, but always ask people that have done both. Ask Pia, ask TJ Duckett is another good example, who's another toy reviewer. Ask Vangelis. Ask people that have done both and who have no real major connection to the show. And they'll give you their honest opinion. And anyone who has ever done both, always you're going to know the truth. That's the sad thing, is that, and especially people who have been going only to recent BotCons, because I've gone to vintage BotCons too, if you could use that term loosely, and they were a lot better back then. But I think that when it stopped being ran, because the thing is, BotCon in the past was ran by fans. It was the Hartmans.
Right.
It was the Hartmans and the Hallets. When it started becoming more of a business, things started losing touch. I even made a comparison once, was when BotCon was already 10 years old, which was because they started in 1994. When it was 2004, that following year, they got eaten up by FunPub. So when they were already 11 years old, they already went professional and lost touch. And that 2005 set sold horribly, not to mention Descent to Evil set. Where TFCon, we're already 11 years old, and we haven't lost touch. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, that's it. Like, we've learned not to make those mistakes, and we're already as old as BotCon was by the time they became a business, as opposed to a fan-run convention.
Yeah.
And all I could say is, try to make your best to get down. If you truly can't get down, but want the exclusives and don't want to have to rely on a scalper on eBay, we do have non-attendee packages. And after the non-attendee packages, sometimes we strike deals with the big bad toy stores and the TF sources, where if we, by chance, I'm not making any promises because stuff does sell out, if we do have overstock, it will end up on those guys. But it's only like, because the thing is, first we sell it through pre-reg, then at the convention, then it goes to the non-registration packages within the TFCon website, and then it has only happened once thus far, which was with the Nightbird exclusive in 2010, but only then will it end up on the Big Bad Toy Stores or a TF Source or whatever. So don't bank on hoping for that, but just to give you an idea, if you can't make it and you really want to pick up the exclusive, there is alternatives. You just got to kind of do your research a little bit for it.
Very awesome, very awesome. Well, TFCon is the world's largest fan-run Transformers convention. If you are going, it is in Mississauga, Ontario, from July 26th to the 28th, 2013. It is this coming weekend. Go, people. If you're a Transformers fan, if you're just a 80s fan in general for the Sunday, go for the Sunday. Amazing guest list between Jack Angel, Dick Gautier, Venus Terzo, all the comic guests that they're going to have, Puggles, potentially. You never know, since that's apparently breaking news around here. So, yeah, absolutely awesome. We will probably talk with Proto Man maybe a week after the convention's over to let him kind of settle down and recover and not be so stressed. And of course,
Well,
this year is his own damn fault for waiting to do stuff to the last minute. But
well, it's always a little nutty. It's always a little nutty. Like, again, as of this recording, for people who aren't aware, I don't know how quickly you're going to get it up, Mike.
About a day.
Okay, you're pretty good then. As opposed to most podcasts that I'm familiar with, it usually takes a week to 2 weeks.
No.
Yeah, you're a pro.
That's right.
But as of this recording, it's Monday going into Tuesday at midnight. We're literally like 3 days away from TFCon. So, and we're literally at the racing line right at the end. And I still got stuff to do. Everyone still has stuff to do. So imagine, it's pretty nutty right now. But I just want to say, I hope I see you guys there. You know, come by, say hi. It's always fun to meet new fans and everything.
Very awesome. Very awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the TFCon 2013 pre-show. I am TF2 Mike with
Steve Megatron Phillips.
And the goddamn Proto Man.
We will catch you next time. Transform and roll out.
We Decepticons now face our darkest hour.
Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
Soundwave superior. Autobots inferior.